Hello, I'm Ted Alexander. Welcome to Clarksville Outdoors. Tonight we have a really unique program. We're joined by Bill Orgain, a local outdoorsman. Bill has a collection of antiques and outdoor memorabilia that's just nothing short of fantastic, as you're about to see. Bill, welcome to Clarksville Outdoors.
How you doing, Ted? Glad to have you here at the Longleaf Lodge.
The Longleaf Lodge, that's the name?
That's the name of the place.
It's phenomenal.
Well, thank you.
It's really something. I've never seen anything like it. When did you start doing this?
I guess I really started about 15 years ago. Started out collecting small items, hunting-related items, and I've always been fascinated more so with the artwork, the advertisement field, or the advertisement side of sporting collectibles. And it's sort of evolved into duck calls, decoys, and all sorts of hunting duck-related memorabilia.
Was there anyone in a particular person that maybe influenced you in any of this, that inspired you?
Probably number one, I'd have to say Howard Harlan. He is a collector in Nashville, Tennessee. Probably has the foremost duck call collection in the United States. I have befriended him, he's befriended me, and became avid collectors together. Now, he's been at it a long time, probably 25 or 30 years. But he's showed me the ropes, told me what to look for, how to spend my money wisely, and been a mentor of mine for a long time, good friend.
A mentor, and that's, yeah. Obviously you've had to do a lot of traveling, you know, to pick such things up.
It started out that way. Used to be I'd take off on the weekends and I would travel 4 or 5 hours, just hit the interstate antique malls. But with the advent of eBay, that's been my saving grace. I can stay home now, and my wife will attest to the fact that I will get up on Saturday mornings about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'll stay on the computer for 4 or 5 hours looking for sporting collectibles, just about every Saturday.
That's interesting. So obviously you buy. Do you ever do any selling at all?
I hadn't gotten to that stage yet. I'm still collecting. My wife is, that's a concern with my wife, but I'm about ready. What I've done, I've got this building that I've got everything placed like I want it. And this has been a saving grace for me to put this sporting collectibles in this building. Before, I had everything in my home. Things were tucked under beds, in closets, in the basement. Didn't really know what I had. The thing about collecting, the fun part about collecting is finding the stuff. That's the quest. Once you find it, you have a tendency to put it away, and you're on a new quest, looking for something else. So I didn't really know what I had. When I bought this building with the purpose of making a sporting museum out of it, I had a specific place for everything on the walls, and once I met that requirement, or had all the stuff that I had on the walls, it let me know I didn't need to buy anything else. If I do buy something else, I sell something. It's a upgrade. If I find something I really like, I'll sell off something and replace it on the wall.
Well, it looks like you filled just about every spot on the wall, I think, and the floor, and some just incredible pieces. And obviously, along the way, you've probably met some real characters along the way, some interesting people. You said the man's name, the initial was Howard?
Howard Harlan.
Harlan.
He's a real interesting character. Head full of white hair, white beard, looks kind of like Santa Claus. But as genuine a person as you'll ever want to meet, and just full of information. And that's another fun thing about sporting collectibles, is learning the history of the items you're trying to collect. And he is just a wealth of knowledge for me. And so he's a character that I've met a lot across or down the road trying to find all this stuff, but Howard by far is the most influential in my sporting tenure.
Well, yeah. And I heard you mention a couple of times now duck calls. Now, obviously you have a lot of antique duck calls. Could you give us a little of the history of duck call? You know, when was the first one? You know, do we know who made it, who used it? I mean,
I think some of the earliest duck calls. There was a Elam Fisher, had a patent on the duck call, and I think it goes back to the 1880s, maybe 1870s. might be off a decade or so there, but it goes back towards a little after the Civil War. There's photographs from Currier and Ives that shows duck hunters with a duck call in their shirt pocket. So the actual history, really, I'd say the Elam fishers are probably some of the earliest calls. They were a very crude affair that had, a lot of them had a horn, a cow horn bell on with a wooden tongue pincher instrument that you blew into. Tongue pincher meaning that when you blew into it, the metal reed is exposed and it could actually, it pinches your tongue, just like the name implies. And so, but they really didn't sound good. But back then, there were so many ducks, it didn't really need to sound. It was just an attraction getter, just to get the ducks to turn to come to them.
Yeah, some of the photography back then shows just people with rows and rows of ducks
Right.
hanging on. It's
Right.
unbelievable. Were they using the decoys back then? Also the
Right, they had the
hand-carved
decoys. Of course, back then, they had live decoys. I don't think live decoys weren't outlawed until, I believe it was the 1920s is when they were outlawed. So before that time, they actually had, they would import English hen mallards and became pets of the family, you know, but they were a very important part of duck hunting back then. And they would have a tether and put them out in the water with other wood decoys, and the ducks would attract ducks flying in the air.
So the duck was probably every bit as much of a pet as the dog
sure.
was, right?
Yeah. And a lot more important.
Well, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to have a lot more on the calls and the decoys here as we go through the building and show people.
Okay.
Yeah. So stick around. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Clarksville Outdoors. We're with Bill Orgain. Bill, as you were saying, obviously you've got to have some favorites. You know, I've already got some favorites in the short amount of time I've been in here. Which ones would they be?
Ted, I've got a few that I've pulled out that I'd like to show you.
Oh,
Okay?
don't let me stop you. So what do we have here, Bill?
All right, I'm going to start with the one on my left. This is a John Jolly. Now, this gentleman was out of Proctor, Arkansas. And actually, he hunted in the West Memphis area and got to know a lot of the dignitaries of the Memphis. He was close enough to Memphis. Actually lived in Memphis for a while, but he carved these gorgeous looking, this is a cedar call, checkered, has painted ducks, carved and painted ducks on it. And then he would actually, it has a little banner that has the customer's name on it that he would carve in.
So he actually put the customer's name on the call.
These
Well,
would be a
phenomenal.
special order duck call.
Wow.
This would have been in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. So that's a gorgeous call, highly collectible. And then I put this one in because his son, Fred, is making duck calls too, and he's carrying on the family tradition. Very similar in the style. It's a little bit smaller call, but he does the same thing. He checkers the call, and then he paints a carved duck in different panels. And he also makes them just like his father did, almost exact replicas of that. So that's a pretty call. The interesting thing about this call is this lumber that he used to make this call came out of the old Brown homestead. It was that big mansion on Golf Club Lane that they tore down where the movie theater is going. And this was a header in one of the windows, and I gave him that wood, and he carved this call out of it. So it's pretty neat, a little Clarksville history.
Just beautiful.
This is a very unique call, and this gentleman's name is John Ewell, or James Ewell, I should say. And he is sort of known for having the elliptical mouthpiece. Very few call makers will do that. And I don't know if the camera can pick that up or not, but a very unique style. and very artistic gentleman. I don't know if you can see the the Indian face, and then on the flip side, this is a retriever with a duck in his mouth on the water, surface of the water. And this, there again, this is a cedar, made out of cedar, but just a gorgeous call. This gentleman is in his 80s, lives down in Louisiana, and he's another very, very unique individual that's been to Clarksville and visited our place here. This next one is, in my opinion, and probably Howard Harlan's opinion too, the nicest duck call to come out of the state of Tennessee. This is a William Burke. He also lived in the Memphis, Tennessee area. And as you can see, I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the detail work on this, but the ducks carved in this are absolutely gorgeous, and it almost looks like a piece of tooled leather as opposed to wood.
It does.
Has a little bit of checkering on it also. This is probably 40s or 50s vintage, so it's not really that old, but the collectible standpoint is the fact that there's only 2 of these known to exist. And I'm lucky enough to have one of them. Howard Harlan has the other.
How'd you swing that one, Bill?
And then last but not least, very, probably one of the most prolific call makers known is Charles Perdue, came out of Illinois. He also made some very attractive duck decoys. But this is unique in that, there again, it's a cedar call, but there's some stippling on there as opposed to checkering. And then he did this hand painting of the ducks, all in different mallards and hens, and there's a mallard in a, it looks like he's about to set on the water pose. And he did kind of like John Jolly in the fact that he would carve the initials of the customer that ordered the call. He had what we call candy. It's a little Bakelite mouthpiece. These were done in red, green, and amber color, and it was just a way to kind of fancy up the call. But these are very collectible too, and there again, that's in the 40s and 50s. He has a son named Haddon Perdue that also produced calls. They have both since passed away.
Notice that you said several times that they're made of cedar.
And that's kind of unusual that I picked all these happen to be cedar, except this one. This is walnut here. But most of the calls are made out of bodock or the mock orange, walnut, cocobolo, and some of the more exotic woods are used a lot too. So cedar is really not a wood that calls are made out of, except for really this range right here. They're about the only ones that did use cedar.
Well, that was my question. Do they do that because it gives a certain sound that they're looking for? Is it just easier to work with, or just local availability, or something?
Maybe a little bit of all three.
All the above.
It's real easy to carve. It's really, most call makers feel like it's a little too soft to work with.
Okay.
But obviously it does make a gorgeous call, and I don't think they were, when you get into something fancy like this, they weren't as concerned. This one, it was a working call, but it wasn't.
Okay.
This was meant for the sports. These are the guys that had a lot of money and they just wanted to look good out there hunting. That would not be used as a working call. Right?
I got you. You know, the walnut one, it looks like it is in a sheath of leather. It really does. It's fun. It's almost like they stuck in the sheath of leather.
That's my pride and joy.
Thanks. Stick around. We'll be back in a few minutes. Clarksville Outdoors.
All right, Randola.
Lovely. Geese, ducks coming in from everywhere. Outstanding day outside Winnipeg, right off Oak Hammock Marsh.
Hey, come here, man. Just gonna get mad if you don't get my picture on.
Teddy, we're rolling.
Hey, man, it was awesome. It was a good hunt. All these have been landing over here in that field behind us the whole time.
Let's get over here where I can see some of these landing over here.
Got Canada's in there.
Canada, snows, blues. Haven't seen any specks, but it's just covered up.
When you Bill Orgain falling into the water.
We'll get the cushions.
Yeah.
Randy, right there. Watch your
Which
step.
way you
be facing? Facing this way.
This way.
Oh, mighty nimble for a 54-year-old man.
Well,
54-year-old man.
in that truck, eh? Turn on that heat. Yeah.
I feel pretty good.
Bill, you got something you want to show us back behind you there? If you got They're gonna knock you over. Don't worry about it.
On the bank.
Yeah.
Yes, he's scooter.
Yeah. Ever seen a scooter?
Big duck. Okay.
Have a potpourri.
Just about is covered. Can you tell us about some of these, your favorites possibly?
Yeah, there again, this is my real true love is the advertising art. This is my beer section here. I'm sure that's going to make
Yay!
But it's next to the bar here, and so that's why I have all these beer ads and posters here. Don't really have a favorite disease. I think they're just kind of whimsical, and it gives you a relaxing atmosphere to look at this art. And maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I love it. If you think about it, back when a lot of these were made, there was no advertising budget for TV or radio. There was you didn't have TV or radio. Really all you had was newsprint and advertising art. And so the industry would hire the best illustrators in the business to do their artwork. And so there's some great names like N.C. Wythe, and this is a J.F. Kernan and Hennemeister. So there's a lot of big name illustrators of their day that did this artwork, and they were the top in their field in the country.
What are basically, I guess, what are some of the ranges of dates we're dealing with here?
Well, no, the beer posters here are going to be probably, now these are 30s, 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
But as we go around the wall, I can show you some that are 1890s up to the 30s. About the 30s is when they really, when you had the advent of radio and
no TV yet.
And they started spending a little more money with that, and so the day of the illustrators was about over.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to show you some of these. These are decoys done by Bob Havel. He lives in Dallas, Texas. These are contemporary decorative birds. They aren't gunning birds. This is something you obviously wouldn't hunt over, but the detail work on these are just fabulous. And I guess everyone knows all the species, but I've got ruddy ducks and hooded mergansers and Canada geese and oh gosh, I've got canvasbacks and mallards, but all these are just tastefully done. Bob has won a lot of competition in the decoy collecting or decoy competition in Maryland and gosh, some of the other states, Illinois also. And then up above here, I've got Johnny Marsh. He was a very famous hunter on Reelfoot Lake. And then these over here are Catlett Darnell. Now, Catlett was a local hunter, lived right here in Clarksville. He never made calls for sale. He usually just made them for his friends. And I don't know if we really know how many he did produce in his lifetime, but his calls are becoming very popular now, not just in Clarksville and Tennessee, but all over the country.
Oh, where'd you go? He's the leader of the pack right there.
Pretty mallard. Can they hear us? They can hear us.
Mallard?
I killed all these. Yeah. Randy, Ted, and kill one. I got them all. And he's going to jail.
Ted shot something, we're not sure what it is.
He killed a scooter.
Where is that scooter, Ted?
Oh, he's a beautiful, big old duck showing the size of these teal.
Oh, now just look at that.
Difference in the size of the green-winged teal. Belly on that scooter.
Yeah, and we're in the province of Alberta, and there's the transportation.
Mature bluebill.
Let me ask you about the canoe.
Okay.
This is quite an interesting
The canoe or duck boat
duck boat. There you go.
was handmade by Niels Hansen, and he immigrated over from Denmark back in 1896.
Okay.
And he was an avid duck hunter, so he made all his own gear. The paddle in there he made. I've got his shotgun and all. But he was such an avid hunter that he didn't like the way the duck call sounded, so he started making his own. Got the patent on it, and over his lifetime sold over 330,000 duck calls.
Wow.
It was called the Broadbill, and hopefully I'll have some pictures I can show you of that. I actually have the patent papers from the patent office and from the government. But and I've also have pictures of this boat in the water being hunted.
So I mean that was my question. I thought this is not just a coffee. I mean this is actually people actually
This
hunted
was
out of this
an
boat.
actual working boat up in the state of Minnesota.
Whew.
So pretty interesting and
Pretty brave too.
And I found this on eBay of all things.
Wow.
And about a month after I bought it, I've had the State Historical Society from Minnesota contact me and want to buy the
Wanting it
boat.
back.
They were just sick that it got out of their state.
Oh boy. Oh.
But I told them not yet.
You snooze, you lose.
That's right. That's right.
Especially with a computer and eBay. This caught my eye. Herb Parsons shooting.
Herb Parsons was an exhibition shooter for Winchester Arms back in the 40s and 50s. And the neat thing about Herb, and the reason I collect his memorabilia, is he was from Parsons, Tennessee. He's a Tennessean. Very famous. I'm sure a lot of the viewers have seen some of his tapes on shooting exhibitions, but they're phenomenal. And Herb was the first gentleman to ever break 7 targets, throwing them up in the air and breaking them with a shotgun, shooting 7 times with a pump shotgun. Before that time, it was unheard of, and this was back in the late 40s, early 50s. But I've gotten to know Herb's son, Lynn Parsons. He's a surgeon in Ohio, and I was lucky enough to get that from Lynn. This is Herb also. He was a very interesting man, very charismatic, but Herb was the world champion duck calling caller back in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and this is back in 50 and 51, and that's what he's pointing at. He's got a little emblem here saying he's the champion duck caller. So he was an avid sportsman, great shot, and a true showman when it came to exhibition shooting. If you'll notice in the center photograph, that's the same piece that I have right out here. So I feel very fortunate to have that in my collection. All these, they do have different stories, and if you want me to, I could go through.
Oh,
and I can name you every maker of these. I really do.
I bet you could.
But a lot of them are contemporary call makers. A lot of them are the old antique, where the maker has since passed away. But, and just to go over a few of them, these are Tom Turpin, another very prominent Memphis call maker. That is a hard to find checkered call that you just don't find too many of them. Most of his really were working calls, and when he did something really fancy, that's kind of special to find something like that. Here's some more of the Charles Purdue calls, like I showed you the one up earlier during the show. Sharpie Shaw, he was a guide on Reelfoot Lake, and so he made a good sounding call. And the calls on Reelfoot Lake were a real loud affair. To me, they didn't sound much like a duck, but it attracted the duck. But and I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but each one I can appreciate for the work done in. Some of them are really fancy, like these are done by a gentleman in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Kent Friedman. But then I've got some plain ones here that, in their own right, they have their own
I'm sure
beauty.
some are local and some are out of state. No, it's phenomenal.
Really are.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been an incredible trip through time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Bill,
Glad to have you.
I appreciate you for coming on the show
You're
and
welcome
showing us
back
this
anytime.
unbelievable stuff. Thanks, Bill.
Glad to have you.
We'll see you next week on Clarksville Outdoors.